Hear you talk?
What do you want me to say? Now, I may talk like Minnie Pearl.
Let me hear you talk like Minnie Pearl.
Howdy!
Is that how Minnie Pearl talks?
And she always comes on saying that. You haven't ever heard her?
And then what does she do?
Oh, well, then she just start telling her jokes, little silly jokes. For instance, she just had two relatives, brother and another relative. However, I invented my own. I have a grandpa and Uncle Ernestine, Aunt Mattie Bell, and Cousin Elmer. Cousin Elmer's one. The elevator didn't get to the top floor. All lights on, nobody home. So, anyway, I pull all my dumb jokes on him. But you know, when I was teaching children, you said a lot of things that I can use as jokes, you know.
Like what?
For instance, one time I had written during the summer just before school was out, a man came in, painted the flagpole to the elementary school. And during the summer, I wrote to the senator and asked him would he give us a flag, the school flag. Then after school started, I was way out back. The building I was in the first grade, 3 rooms were out. You had to go outside into the 3 rooms in the back of the school. And by the time you went around the way to the office, you were gone 5 or 6 minutes from your group. So at the beginning of school, you didn't have a chance to do that. So after about 2 weeks, I took the flag around and gave it to the principal and told him I'd begged a flag. So he announced over intercom to be sure for the first grade teachers to teach their children the pledge to the flag before Friday. And he was going to ask the high school band to come down and, play. And he was going to tell children, how to respect the flag, and have a general meeting of it. Well, as we came around the building, I told the children the pledge to the flag. Those words are not even in those children's listening or talking vocabulary. So I knew they didn't know all the pledge in just that short a time. So I told the children in my room, I said, now, boys and girls, if you don't remember the pledge, I said, you say what you do remember. But you keep your eye on that flag when it goes at the flagpole and keep your hand on your heart. Well, coming around the building, one little boy just patting himself up and down to his waist, beating his chest. I said, Johnny, what is wrong with you? He said, teacher, I can't find my heart. Mine don't stick out like yours. So a lot of things that children said like that I use for joke. Of course, I get a giggle out of that if I tell it. And then I'll say, well, to a 6-year-old, maybe I looked like Dolly Parton. So I make up my own jokes and my own kinfolks and everything. So anyway.
Now, how old are you now?
I'm 86 years old.
You're kidding. So, in 1934, 60 years ago, you were 26 years old, and you were going to tell me about, you were supposed to you were going to get married. You had a date to get married?
On Saturday, the 14th of July, and the mill was out on strike, so I said, well, let's just put it off. Let's don't get married. No telling how long. See, both of us were out of work. He worked in the mill, too. We went together 5 years before we married, though. So, anyway, then the next week he fussed all the week. So we decided that we would go to Coleman and get married and just invite this one couple to go with us. And we wasn't going to tell that we were married then until we went back to work. So that's what we did. We got married 21st July.
1934.
1934. 60 years, the 21st of this month.
Do you remember why you all went out on strike?
Well, no. They were asking higher wages. See, some of them that worked in the mill just made 10 cents an hour. some of the hourly workers, you know, some of them just made 10 cents an hour, and they were asking for higher wages for one thing.
Well, now, this union, it started after President Roosevelt changed the hour and wages law, right?
Yeah.
So you went on the 8 hours.
Yeah.
And you went on the 40-hour week.
A week. And all over 40 hours was time and a half pay. And if you had to work on Sundays, usually that was double pay.
Even back then in 1934? Now, do you recall, could you tell me a little bit about your local union in Connersville? How many people joined?
How many joined?
Yeah. Was it popular?
Well, I don't know how many, because I don't know how many worked in the mill. I don't remember how many worked, but most of them joined the union. Not all of them, but most of them did.
Was it a public thing, or did people do it in private? I mean, were people public about their affiliation with the union?
Yeah.
How public were people?
Well, they had meetings usually on Sunday afternoon, and anybody could know you were going to a union meeting, so there was nothing about it at that time. But then after they came out on strike, why, some of them went back to work, you know, and they tried to get anybody to come in there. And the ones that belonged to the union, see, they didn't want to put them back to work. And so, of course, they got a lot of new crew in then. Of course, gradually, they added others back.
Now, do you recall, how long were you people out on strike? Do you recall?
Almost 3 months.
Wow. Because you went out in July, and you didn't go back till the end of September, right?
Thereabout. It might not have been quite 3 months, I forgot.
Could you tell me what, like, those 3 months were like?
What they were like?
Yeah, describe that to me.
Well, I got a job, went to work somewhere else. So,
you didn't stay out on strike every day?
Oh, I went to work for a used car place.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I don't know.
Did you go to the picket line?
No. I was working uptown for a used car, at a used car lot. But a lot of them were on the picket line.
Did your husband go to the picket line?
I don't think he did. I don't remember. He maybe did once or twice, but not regular.
Did you keep on going to meetings?
A few, but not many.
How did people think about you? I mean, what did people think about the fact that you got another job instead of being out on the picket line every day?
I don't know what they thought they did. They didn't ever say anything about it to me. How come the man that owned the used car lot was a friend of mine, and his wife was having a baby, and he knew I wasn't working in the mill, and he called me and asked me. He knew I could type. And anyway, he needed a new filing system set up for the used car place. So he called me and asked me would I be interested in work. Of course, I wasn't working, and I was. So anyway, I worked up there.
Do you remember that was Mr. Taylor the president of your local union?
Taylor?
Yeah. Jack Taylor?
I don't remember him being. Smith was a president of it for a while. Smith.
Uh-huh.
And, we had 2 or 3 during that time, but I don't remember now who the other. Seemed like Mr. Richardson was at one time.
Now, did the Connersville meet with Albertsville local union? Did you all meet together?
No, it was entirely separate. But now occasionally when we have a whole statewide convention or something, of course, we would all be, Albertville, Connersville, and all of them, and the Mills and the Huntsville and all would.
And do you remember before the strike having statewide conventions? Do you remember that? Before?
Yeah,
You did?
I've been to Huntsville 2 or 3 times to meetings over there, and one time I went to Mobile. And
this was before that big strike in 1934. So do you remember, did you sign a card to join the union? Do you remember how that worked? How did you join? Do you recall? Did you have to pay dues?
yeah, you had to pay dues. But I don't remember where to sign a card and that. I guess you'd had to sign something, but I don't remember now how it was. I don't remember whether we...
Well, I think you needed to have like 15 people or 16 people to have a charter. And then once you got a charter, then they went around organizing and getting people to join. Did someone ask you to join? How did you even find out about it? Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, somebody asked me to join, or I wouldn't have known anything about it. They were already organized. And
do you remember who asked you to join?
no, some of the employees, but I don't remember who it was. And I guess it was couple, the man was a loom fixer and his wife was a battery hand in the wheel shop. They were friends of ours. We went to Sunday movies in Coleman and Gadsden, didn't have Sunday movies here then, and they went with us. They didn't have a car, and my husband had a car. I mean, the man I married later on, but anyway, I guess they probably were the ones that asked us to join, and they originally were from Huntsville.
Now, how do you think, was it a popular thing? Did the town respond favorably?
No. The town rejected the mill in the first place. As for that matter, they kind of looked down their nose on the mill. And see, I had lived here, finished elementary school here and finished high school here, belonged to the First Methodist Church uptown, so I got all that resentment from them, see.
Because you worked in the mill?
Oh, no, they didn't criticize me for working in the mill, but I know they would criticize and, make slurry remarks about they work in the mill. Oh, he works in the cotton mill, and they didn't want their children to play. Actually, they didn't resent it. They're coming to the elementary school, but that was the only school there was. See.
They resented it?
A lot of the people did. And my neighbor right here, and they're still dear friends of mine that lived over on the corner now, but they live on the top of the mountain now. They built out there later. She had 2 boys, and she wouldn't let her boys go out there. She didn't want them associating with cotton mill trash. Really, truly, that's the truth.
And what did you say to those people?
What did I say to them?
Yeah.
No, I didn't say anything to them. I just let them think what they wanted to, and I went to work and all. When I applied for a job, I taught in Albertville the first 2 years I taught. And the only reason there wasn't an opening in the school down here, and I applied for a job in Albertville, and my husband happened to be a real good friend of the Chevrolet man in Albertville, Chevrolet dealer in Albertville. He was a real good friend here. And we stopped by for a little visit with him at the Chevrolet place when I was on my way over to school, because we got to Albertville a little bit early when I had an appointment for interview with the principal. And he said, "What are you doing in Albertville?" And, then it took a long time to get to Albertville because the road was so bad, And Bob told him, he said, "Well, she has an interview. She's trying to get a job." He said, "Why, he's my neighbor. He lives right across the street from me," the principal. He said, I'll call him and tell him you're on your way over there, give you the job. So the interview didn't amount to much. I got the job. So anyway.
You didn't want to have an interview here in Connersville?
Oh, they wanted an opening in this school. And 2 years later, I taught 2 years at Albertville. And then the teacher was going to get married and left. So one of the teachers on the faculty called me and told me that the first grade teacher was leaving. Would I be interested in the job? And see, then it was long distance from Albertville to Connersville, even on the telephone. So,
these meetings that you had in the church, could you describe them for me? The union meetings. Do you remember what they were like?
Well, yeah. I was treasurer. They had to pay the dues to me, and I had to keep up with all that, you know. And
now, this was before the strike that you were treasurer, or later on afterwards?
Was what?
Before the strike you were treasurer, or was it later on afterwards?
No, before the strike. Almost from the very beginning. Almost from the time I went in the union, I was treasurer then until it went out of business. And I know, of course, Julius Fry, as I told you, was one that came here, but he, from the head office, you know, I forgot what his capacity was, but anyway, he came by and, you know, audited the books to see how much money we had. And of course I had pen money just for stamps and things like that, so he had to see $2.32 or whatever it was in pen money and everything after he went over the books and everything. And then of course they took all the money and took the books and everything then after it went out on strike and all. So
do you know a man named Mr. Kellett?
Who?
Kellett, Kellet, J.H. Kellett.
Not associated with the union. I know a lot of Kelletts, but
he wasn't. I think he was the president. I don't. Maybe see.
Luther Mangrum, you know him.
Was
Lee Gordon, Mitch St. John, you know him. Ruby Duran, know her, a lot of tittle.
Now these were people in the union, right?
George Worley, knew him. Leon Skurlock, Irene Martin, Cora Hayes, and Claude Hanley. He was a colored man.
Was he in the union?
Yeah.
What about Dallas Moore? Do you remember Dallas Moore?
I don't remember whether he belonged to the union or not.
He was a colored man too.
Yeah, I know.
So you had black people in your union?
Yeah, they belonged. And this Claude Hunley, he cleaned the air conditioners and all.
If you saw a picture of him, would you recognize
Let's
him?
say J.F. Gordon. I knew Steve Curlock. I knew Joseph Jackson. And Joseph Jackson and I were in charge of the picnic for 3 or 4 years for the cotton mill picnic. I knew Miss Stewart. A lot of these people worked in different part of the mill that I never did, you know, was. And I knew the Mangrum. I knew the Turner.
All these people were members, yeah, of the union?
All of them might not have been. May Mangrum, Johnny Gordon, C.L. Jackson, knew him. And I don't know the trainers. I know W.C. Turner.
No, they were the trailer. I think they were trailers.
I knew Naomi Hunt. Knew Nell Shaw. Belle Traylor.
Belle Traylor was her sister.
Harold Lefevre. I knew Pearl Hunt.
Were all these folks out on the picket line? And
I don't know now who I was on the picket line.
okay, but you would know.
I knew Annie Moon. I knew nearly all of them, but no, not nearly all of them, because a lot of them that worked in the card room and spinning room. I didn't have any. I wasn't anywhere around them or anywhere in
these
town.
people's names, I got these people's names because they signed affidavits like this. When the strike was over and they went to get their jobs back, they couldn't get their jobs back. So they signed these affidavits. Do you remember anything like this?
Mm-hmm.
It says October 13th, 1934. And it must have been they must have organized a whole grouping of people to do this, because everybody signed one of these, and that's where I got that list from.
Mm-hmm.
These were all the people who couldn't get their jobs back when they went back to work.
Well, see, they tried to start up the mill completely without any that had ever belonged to the union. They tried to do that, see.
No. They actually tried to start up the mill in early September, and you all had decided to go out with the general strike, right? First you went out as a state,
Mm-hmm.
Alabama, and then all the other union locals in other parts of the South, they came out on strike too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, when everybody came out, that's when they wouldn't ever hire me back. I finally went back to work then. After the mill had started up and it run for a while. But when it come out for the, all over, why, they never, I had another job. See, I'd already renewed my certificate and already had a job teaching now, so I never did go back then.
Do you remember organizing this so that people could do this when they couldn't get their jobs back?
Yeah, I remember having them sign those papers.
You do? Were you there?
I can't remember whether I did or not. I guess I did, because I didn't. Have you got one with my name on it?
I don't have one with your name on it. I never even heard of your name. Someone told me about you. But do you remember John Pritchett?
Yeah.
Who was he?
He, at one time, he was, let me see what he,
Police?
no, he was, he had some job with the city.
Was he a notary?
He was supervisor of street work. I don't know what you call his job, that's what he was then. But then he went to work in the mill after they came back on strike. He went to work as a watchman. He was a watchman.
Was he a notary public?
I don't know whether he's a notary public or not.
Because that's what he did here. He signed.
Oh well, he was a notary public then. But
was he? Why would he? Was he pro? Was he pro union or anti union?
Yeah. And a union. He was strictly against it. Tooth, line, and sinker.
If he was strictly against it, why would he be the notary public? See his signature.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. But he was watchman a while at the mill.
Now I have two of these papers for Dallas Moore and Claude Hunley. See? They tried to get their jobs back too. You know what they said? They said, after the strike was over, I went back to my gate, but they had armed guards and machine guns, and wouldn't let me near the mill. They both said that. After the strike was over, we went back to our gate, but they wouldn't let us near the mill, held us off with machine guns. So they filed these affidavits the same way everybody else did. So I have two questions. One is, did you all make a decision to let these two colored men be part of your union?
Make a decision for what?
I mean, did everybody say it was okay for these two colored men to be a part of your union?
I don't know whether they voted on it or not. I can't remember that now. I think they just tried to get everybody to join that they could get to join. Ordinarily, they'd ask you to join if you didn't pay your dues and all.
Did they come to meetings? Do you remember? Did Dallas Moore and
No. Now I don't. If they ever came to the meeting, I don't know, but there's a lot of them didn't ever come to the meetings. If they ever came, I don't remember.
Do you think people would have been uncomfortable having these two black men be a part of the union, or no?
Well, they worked with them in the mill, so I don't think they would.
Do you recognize?
See, there wasn't many colored that worked in the mill.
How many colored worked in the mill?
Well, over a period of all those years, not many though, very few.
Okay. Do you remember this man?
Right offhand, I don't. That young.
That's Claude Hunley.
I forgot how he looked. Good gracious.
This way. Ham bone, is that what they call it?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Now, did you ever organize? Now, what about these machine guns? Were there really machine guns at the mill?
Now, I don't know. I didn't see them with any because I wasn't out there, I guess. So I don't know. But they did guard the mill to keep anybody from going in, though, because I heard them talking about it. Of course, it's always hearsay, so for that matter. But they evidently said they saw it, went down there and asked for the job back. They wouldn't let them go close to the mill.
Yeah, that's what a lot of them.
See, actually, when you'd pass by, you'd see them standing out almost to the street. See, used to, honey, the way they did the main road, this was just a little road through here for the people. This house and one next door was the only one for 2 blocks on this whole side of the street way back then. There wasn't but 3 or 4 over there.
How did the
And the highway turned.
Yeah, but how could they call out? How could they get these people with guns to come to the mill? Do you think Mr. McCormick did that?
Well, I guess he did. He was superintendent. I guess he did. And his wife worked in the office, Alma. And see, they lived at the hotel here. They didn't own a home. They lived at the hotel here. And his wife worked in the mill, in the office, see, and made out the payroll. And he was superintendent, Mac McCormick. Her name was Alma.
Was he a tough man?
Well, I never did have much dealings with him. I don't know. He was always nice to me, what little bit I saw of him.
Yeah.
They didn't belong to the church I did. They were Presbyterians, I think. Didn't go to the Methodist church, so I didn't know them that way.
Did you know, did Mr. St. John have a daughter named Frances? Do you remember?
Let's see. Let me think if he had a daughter. He was railroader, see, before he was watchman in the mill.
He lived on Rayburn Avenue, yeah?
Mm-hmm. 3 or 4 blocks down. And Rayburn's 2 blocks over. There's an old brick behind me in the 2nd block over. He had a son named Carl, and he had one named, that owned drugstore in New Hope. Had one named Finus, and Finus lives here, just died recently, lived here in Connersville. And he had a son that owned a drugstore in New Hope. And if he had a daughter, it was by his second marriage, and I don't remember if he did or not. I know he had those 3 boys.
I'm asking because I think I have a letter. Jack Taylor, president of the Union Local in Connersville, 757 Obrigg Avenue. Jack Taylor. No, you don't remember that?
757, Jack Taylor?
Yeah, Jack Taylor.
Mm-mm.
Do you remember L.D. Albright?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
Yeah.
Was he an officer in the Union?
I don't remember him ever being an officer.
I think he
But now after the mill closed down, he went to North Carolina and got a job in one of the mills in North Carolina. And his brother lives in Boaz now, half-brother. His half-brother lives in Boaz now.
How was it that you were so involved in the Union and then during the big strike you just kind of left?
Well, see, I got a job work during the summer up in used car lot. Then I got a job later on after the big strike. I went back to Jacksonville for 3 months to renew my certificate because I got my degree in Montgomery so many years before, and I hadn't taught school. And the ruling is you have to teach so many years within an area of a time. So I had to renew my certificate, so I was in Jacksonville in the school for 3 months or 2.5 months.
So did you ever try to get your job back, or you just didn't even try?
Oh, yeah, the first strike. Now, I went back to work after the first strike, after the mill had already been operating quite a while. I went back to work.
So that was the big strike in 1934. You went back to work after that?
Yeah, quite a while after that. Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm going to look for your name. Now, I found these. This is a letter from Claude Hunley, and he wrote this in October 1933. I don't know if you could read it or not. Is that too dark for you?
You know, the workers at the building kind of looked down on them and all, even though they were getting all the trade and all from them. Well, see, they didn't get too much cooperation from the, you know, police department or anything like that. So,
were there people in the was there anyone in the community that gave support to all of you having a union?
Didn't too many think too much of the mill.
Did you feel, did it feel like do you think you were, why did you all do it? Were you responding to President Roosevelt? Do you remember that? Did it feel like it was patriotic?
I don't think so. Uh-uh.
Okay. Does this look really familiar to you? This is from L.D. Albright. This was on Union Stationery.
C.L. Jackson, Noe. Naomi Hunt. I know Nell Shaw. No Belle Taylor. No Taylor. No, I know Belle Traylor. I don't know Belle Taylor. But I believe that's who that is, Belle Traylor instead of Taylor anyway. Harold Lefevre, no Pearl Hunt. I knew Annie Moon, Maud Mangrum, knew Luther Sims, R.J. Cherry, Eula Duran, Ira Bush. He hadn't been dead very long. His son now is over the streets in Connersville. And New Gillespie Hudson, I knew J.R. Moon.
Now, do you remember these people belonging to the Union?
No, I wouldn't. I don't know whether they. I knew Jack Garner. He was my cousin to my husband. Harold Lefevre, knew Paul Hunt. W.C. Turner, and I knew C.G. White. Knew Gillespie Hudgens. And R.J. Cherry. That's all. I didn't know the crowd. But I tell you, a lot of them that worked in the card room or spin room or something, see, I never did maybe even see them. So.
So, I'll tell you, I've never seen all these people after the strike try to get their jobs back, and they filled out these forms. You could take a look. I mean,
What did that think about it?
yeah, this letter. He wrote this letter to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
to complain. How do you think he came to write a letter like that?
I don't know. I didn't know him that well. I just knew him when I see him, actually. He did a pretty good job, I thought.
He did a great job. And he even signed his name. I mean, don't you think he could have gotten in trouble if they knew that he wrote a letter like that?
Could have. Very easily. Even with the law here in Connersville, because they were so prejudiced against everything. And John Pritchett was a tattletale from the mill. Reason he went to work out here so he could find out what was going on in the mill and run and tattle it back up there. See, I know my daddy was on the police force. So I know.
So you think Mr. Pritchett was the witness to this? He was a witness to these signatures, to these affidavits.
Well, see, he went to work out here in the mill just to be a pimp, honey. The reason he went to work out there. Because he'd always worked been over the street, supervision, maintenance of streets and all. And at one time, I think when they put in meters, he was in charge of that at one time maybe or something. And he always hung around City Hall. So the only reason he got a job in the mill so he could find out what was going on out there, what all the employees were saying, all of them were doing, and also he could run and tell the people in Gunners.
What did he do in the mill?
What's he doing now?
What did he do in the mill? Do you remember?
He was watchman for a while. He couldn't do anything. He didn't know anything about mill work. He brought up and lived right here in Gunners all the time, married Pritchett.
Do you remember at any of the meetings telling you the workers that if the mill wasn't complying with the rules, that they could write letters to Washington or they could write letters to the government?
I don't ever remember a discussion like that.
Do you remember getting materials sent to you by the union, by the national union or the international union? Do you remember them sending you material or sending you handbills to hand out for the strike or anything like that?
They had handbills, but I don't know who they sent them to. President of the union, I guess, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Wow. Did they, when they made you treasurer, was there a ceremony or anything like that, or an election?
Yeah, there was an election.
At the
by vote, at the union hall by vote.
Did they have to pay rent to have a meeting at the union hall, or was it free?
They finally bought the old church, see. and they owned it later on.
When did they do that? That must have been years later, right?
Well, it had to have been, because they wouldn't have, unless
So
the money to come from.
So how long was there a union in Connersville? Was there a union beyond 1934? Did it go on and on?
Beyond 34?
Yeah, was there a union beyond 34? Did they get a contract? They did, didn't they?
Yeah, but I don't know how long after that or how long it was here. You know how years fade together and you...
Yeah, I know. Do you remember singing in the meetings, the union meetings? Was there music? Was there singing? Do you remember what they did?
Well, most of it was business, because a lot of it's on Sunday afternoon, you know, when they had the meeting. And after they had their own, they didn't have any instrument, anything in their own. They bought the old church, see, and it was just a very crude. It had a kitchenette, you know, and just a sink and a stove and all it, and then one big sanctuary, you know, after they bought the old church. It was right up here on this corner, next to the corner lot up there, 50-foot lot.
Do you remember why the strike ended?
Well, when they finally got enough people that could go back, and they were going to teach them to run these jobs, see, when they finally got enough people to start back up the mill.
But do you remember, did Roosevelt call off the strike? Do you remember? The strike wasn't called off by the management. The strike was called off by Roosevelt and Mr. Gorman. And then they told all the workers, the strike is over, go back.
Go back. Mm-hmm.
You remember that? Not really.
Right offhand, no.
When I tell you, you remember, right? Okay. But you would say that there were only 2 black employees, or just a handful, and they were in your union. You remember that?
I don't remember how many there were. Very few even worked in the mill. 2 or 3, I think, was all that worked. Over a period of time, they might have fluctuated. Maybe a new one came in. But very few blacks at all.
But Mr. Hunley was someone that you all asked to join the union.
I don't know who asked him to.
But he did, you think. And you don't remember the machine guns?
I remember them. I don't remember seeing them. I remember just them talking, said that, you know, they were out there surrounding the mill. But, see, ordinarily the road changed right here, the block above me, and went 2 blocks and a half back of in the alley behind O'Brigg Avenue and Rayburn Avenue. See the main highway, and it didn't come back in to down, I've forgotten the name of that eating place, Spinelli's, I think, down beyond where the hospital, the old hospital used to be. And it went then back of the shopping center and came back into the normal highway here at the foot of the mountain. And so, see, you didn't go by the mill when you were going toward Albertville or in any of that direction. This was just small, you know, it was a street, but it didn't, just for the people that lived here. And as I told you, this house and one the next door were only house in 2 blocks on this side of the street, and there was one.
You distinctly remember what?
They told them no jobs available when they went and applied for a job. '90 by December 23rd, 29th, rather. 90 in Connersville, 84 in Alberton. Some of them from here went to Huntsville and got jobs.
Now, did you even bother going back for your job, or you just didn't go back? Because it seems like you were working at the car place and then you went to school.
Oh, no, I just worked at the car place till his wife had her baby. I worked up there about 3 months.
So did you reapply for a job at the mill, or you didn't?
Yeah, I did. And finally I went back to work quite a while after that.
But they didn't want you back?
Well, I was trying to get another job, different thing. I thought I'd get a job, maybe go to teaching and all, so.
So you didn't press it? I see.
To this, now I didn't know it to be a fact, but it was generally taught that one colored man tried to go in, you know, to apply for a job, and the police kept beating him over the head with their stick, you know, and all. I remember them talking about that. See, I lived right over there when the mill came out on strike.
But you don't remember? But you just didn't go to the picket line once it started.
Mm-mm. And I wasn't there at the time it came out on strike. I wasn't working at that time they came out on strike. Seemed like it was on second shift when they walked out.
But didn't they have a big meeting to vote on whether they were going to come out or not?
I'm sure they did.
You didn't go?
I wasn't there. Anyway, but there was a lot of talk about it. Everybody that had been was talking about it and all.
So do you think you were on the picket line even once?
Mm-mm.
Did you just not want to do it, or?
Nobody never did ask me to be on it, so.
But if
I
you
didn't
were in the union and you were the treasurer of the union, wouldn't you naturally go out on the picket line? No?
Well, I didn't, so I don't.
But that week that you guys decided not to get married, that first week,
Mm-hmm.
were you on the pit? Was you or your husband? Did you guys? I mean, why did you decide not to get married?
Well, we'd come out on strike and didn't know how long we'd be out, so we'd both be out of a job, see. So we didn't get married that week. Anyway, I talked him out of it. I said, well, let's just wait till we go back to work. He kind of griped the next week, so we got married then the following
Oh,
week.
you wanted to wait till it was all over. I see. And when the strike came, you didn't. That first strike, do you remember people? Do you remember seeing them outside with signs or guarding the fences or anything like that?
Yeah, I remember seeing with, you know, the sign. So
See, I was under the impression it was the Baptist church that they had their meetings in. No?
I never did go to a meeting in a Baptist church. They've had one there. I didn't. It was before I was in the union. Now, they bought the Methodist church, so it sounds logical to me that they would have met in the Methodist church by buying it.
Do you remember when they bought the church? Did they buy the church later on? Or did
I
they
don't
buy
remember. I don't
Did
remember.
they buy it before you were married or after you were married?
Yeah, I'm sure it was after.
Okay. Because I am under the impression that the union stayed, that they organized the union again later on. And that when they organized the union again, that's when they bought the church.
Probably.
So when did you work at when you worked at the mill one more time?
Mm-hmm.
When did you work at the mill again? When did you go back and start working again?
I don't know. It's quite a while after they started back up because they wouldn't hire anybody, you know, that worked in there. And they were trying to start it up with all new help and teaching them.
Right.
And
so when did you start teaching again?
When did I start teaching?
Yeah.
I started teaching in 50, I guess, 1950.
And before you started teaching, you were working in the mill.
Yeah.
And when you were working in the mill before you started teaching, was there a union there?
Yeah.
So, and was it a different union than the union that they tried to organize originally in 1934?
No, it was the same union.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But we always called it Local 830, and any announcement, all they'd always say, Local 830 meeting so-and-so. The reason I wondered where you got the numbers for that.
I think that you got a different number. I think you got number 830 later on. I think originally...
It maybe was a reorganization of it.
I think originally it was 2004. And then maybe later on it was... So do you think maybe you...
Well, at the time that they sold the union hall, see, they'd already bought it and had it for years, had meetings there for years. When they sold the union hall, it still went by 830. Because I know when they came by to audit the books and all, and took up they audited the books and the pen money and all, and took the books up to send them back to New York. Julius Fry was the one that did that. He was originally from, I think North Carolina is one of the Carolinas.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he was from Winston-Salem.
Yeah, you're right. I know since you mentioned it now.
Wasn't he a very out communist? Do you remember that about him?
Yeah, in the papers later, it was. His wife was alcoholic, too.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because I know we went to a meeting in Birmingham one time. They had a big dance later on. She got drunk, fell, and broke her arm.
Huh. Do you think maybe you were treasurer of the union after the strike?
I probably was. Mm-hmm.
So do you think maybe...
I was married, so it would have been after the strike.
So it was...
And Bill Elliott, I remembered who his name was, that used to come over and check on the union and meet with us a lot of times. Bill Elliott was his name in Huntsville.
Where was he from?
Bill Adcock, not Elliott. Bill Adcock.
William Adcock.
Yeah, from Huntsville.
But you don't remember John Dean or Albert Cox?
No, I don't remember either one of them.
Do you remember a woman named Eula McGill?
Mm-mm.
Okay, what about, one more woman.
You mentioned, I know one time 2 or 3 of them came to my house and talked to me about joining the union at one time.
When was that? Was that before the strike or after the strike?
Before the strike, when they first were organizing it.
Okay. So the union was around until they closed the mill, is that true?
Little what?
Was the union around until they closed the mill? Was there always a union in the mill?
No, they wasn't always a union. Mm-mm. Because they'd always been a union, they wouldn't work for 10 cents an hour, I don't think.
Right, but I mean, after the strike in 1934, was there always a union after that? Did they always have a local organization?
Mm-hmm.
They did. So the first time they had a union was in 1933, and then they kept the union going.
Mm-hmm.
Did they keep the union going until they closed the mill?
Now, I don't know when the mill closed finally.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't to be anymore. See, I wasn't out there anymore.
Okay.
I wasn't out the mill anymore.
Okay. But you were definitely a member when they went out on strike.
Yeah.
You were definitely a member. But they didn't call it 8:30 then. They called it 2004. 2004. So maybe you were a treasurer later on. You think?
probably.
Were you a treasurer during the strike, or you were a treasurer afterwards?
I was treasurer up until they sold the. I had bought the building, and because I tell you, Julius Fry came by and altered the books and took up the books and everything. And
Okay. And do you think that when they had their early meetings before the strike in 1934, where did they meet? Did they meet at this church, or did they meet at a different church?
well, I'm almost sure they met at the Methodist church, but them buying it later.
Okay.
Now, they could have met other places, but I'm pretty sure they met at the Methodist church by them buying it for Union Hall later.
Okay. And you.
Then when finally the mill had shut down, they came and were taking up the books and the checking account, which there wasn't much money in the bank. But when they came and got all of those, then they sold the building and let some man, one of the men, tear it down. He bought it and paid so much for it, but they transacted all that business, see, because I'd already turned in all the bank book and the everything.
And do you think that you're not surprised that if I find those affidavits with Claude Hunley's name and Dallas Moore, you think they were just in the Union and included?
Do I think they were what?
You think that Claude Hunley
And Dallas Moore.
and Dallas Moore were included in the Union?
Yeah, I think they were. Mm-hmm.
Now, is there anyone that you could think of who remembers when these things were written, when they filled out these forms? Is there anybody that you could think of?
No, I know a lot of them, though, that filled out those forms.
Yeah, but you don't remember being in the office when they did
No, I wasn't. Mm-mm.